Hello, my family. Today, basically, yes, it's coffee time. Um, Honestly, this is a video of food for thought. In some ways, I would never thought I would come to the point where I would have to say that my husband being a diabetic was a blessing in disguise. Not just for him, but for me. It was an eye-opening experience and how we were running this homestead. And I guess nobody's ever sat and really talked about these situations, but I'm going to be one to step out and actually speak about it. As a homesteader, there is a lot we can do. We do our own preserving, as you all know. I mean, there is no secret. We grow, we raise our own meats, we raise our own eggs, we can, we freeze, we dehydrate. There's just so much we can do. We can render down fat, making ghee. We have learned so many unique ways of filling our home with the food that we make and eat. And we are knowledgeable in so many ways, and that is a blessing. But in some ways, it can also be detrimental to our lives. And that's what I'm learning today. The knowledge that we received in the experience of being able to do all that we can do, there is no limits. And with that, I mean, even learning how to bake from scratch, making my own sourdough, it's pretty much endless. And that in itself is a blessing as well. But where it becomes not so much of a blessing is how we have used it. And I'm going to honestly say, for us, it's almost as if we turned our food into comfort instead of fuel. Instead of turning to the comforter, we turn to the comfort of the food. I mean, it tastes so good. There's just something about it that just, in some ways, in our thoughts and minds, it would bring peace. And we just couldn't get enough of it. From the way we planted out in our gardens, it would be over in abundance. Now, for two people, there comes a time for abundance, such as tomatoes. I mean, we were going through our variety of tomatoes and what we would like to do. The Roma tomatoes, the Cherokee purples, and all sorts of tomatoes, but each have their purpose. The variety tomatoes in our paste tomatoes. These make awesome tomato paste that we can preserve. They're great for ketchup. And then our slicing tomatoes, they're great to eat fresh in a salad. You can make tomato sauce out of it. You can make tomato juice. There's just so much that you can do with the tomato. So planting in somewhat of an abundance for that, I can definitely see it. Bell peppers, our sweet peppers. We have quite a few that we would like to do as well as this. Now for us, to preserve them, we can eat them fresh again in so many different variety of ways. We can freeze them very well for the winter and have them when we can't get them in the summer. And not only does this save money, I mean, it becomes economically, it makes sense to us. So when I think about how we've done our gardens, we would have other things that we wanted to try this, we wanted to try that. It became such a mess. It was just half the stuff was not growing properly. I didn't invest into researching too much into it. I'm just going to try. I'm going to experiment. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to a point, I didn't know what moderation was. I didn't know how to moderate my food that we ate. I didn't know how to moderate the food that we grew. I just knew, and I think part of this fell into the things that have been happening in the last couple of years. We hear the word shortage. We hear prepare, and There is absolutely nothing wrong with preparing. I'm going to tell you, as a homesteader, we do the same thing. But I've always had a goal. And my goal was, when I preserved, I would make sure, just to keep recycling my food, that I would try to do my best to have at least up to a year's worth and nothing more than that, because it would not leave me room to try anything else. And in the process of me going through this, I'll have to say there was a lot of waste, because I would preserve way more than two people could even eat, and I was sharing this, and not everybody was willing actually to receive these gifts. And in some form, I can understand that too. There's just, in this world, there is so much given information, good and bad. So for us, when we talk about reevaluating, taking this winter as our downtime, reevaluating our homestead and how we have run it, how we have used it, how we would feed ourselves, it's amazing in the last 7 months the weight that we have lost. But that's not the only thing that was amazing. The new vegetables that we're trying, we never adventured into before. The flavors that we're able to taste, and comparing our foods and allowing it to be our fuel instead of our comfort. We turn more now, if we need that comfort, to our comforter. And for us, that is God. So we're learning to live life in a more flourishing way, enjoying what we do, learning how to preserve in a better way that's healthier for us, using our food for health, for prosperity, for so much, y'all, so much. It's difficult for me to discuss this, because I never thought we would end up in this situation. And basically, this started years ago when we were truck drivers and purchasing our rig, and we knew what hard times were. And today we still know. We knew what it was like to go hungry, and we vowed when we bought this place that that would not ever happen. When we were led to live like we are now, we jumped out in faith, and we decided to just go for this. What could we lose? What we didn't think of is how everything could get out of hand. And it did. Everything got out of hand, from the way we were preserving, to the way we were growing, to the way we were raising. That's hence the quails got out of hand. Everything just got out of hand, and it became so overwhelming. We had no time for nothing. And I guess that's where the pattern came in. I want to grow this, I grow that. We got to do this year round. No time for rest. And to me, resting meant too much on my mind, too much, my hands were idle. And that was a mess for me. I have had a situation in my life where PTSD became a part of my life, and to be idle can sometimes just be crazy for me. So I tend to overboard things, and sometimes, I guess in some ways, I have to admit, did I help my husband create to become that way too? And what I didn't know was the gifts. How many more other gifts did I have that I was not using in my downtimes? One, I knew I could crochet, which is amazing, because I could make my own pot holders. I could make my own hot pads to put my canning jars on. So there's a lot of these that are really, really old, and I could be taking this downtime to making more of those. Instead of trying to rush a production that doesn't need to be done, instead of trying to overwhelm my homestead to a point it becomes chaos instead of pleasure. My husband mentioned how he likes to sit with the bees, that it's his peaceful moment. it's like that for me in the garden. It's like that one-on-one time I get alone with God, and I get to hear the nature of the birds and see these roots growing, these plants, and learning so much from my surroundings. But when I created chaos on my homestead, I've lost all of that. And it's no wonder things turned out the way they did. So again, in a sense, my husband's diabetes brought some awakening to us, and it was a blessing in disguise, because we're now venturing into learning so many more different vegetables that we never even tried. And I'm learning they're amazing, you all. They really are amazing. And I'm learning how to create food in a pleasurable palated way, one that is not going to raise our cholesterol, or in ventures in taking our body and overdoing things. I'm learning balance. I'm learning moderation, and this is not something I've ever done before. Food can be amazing, and it can also be chaotic. You know, I'm learning to shut out some of the things in the world because it can overwhelm our brains too much too. And be mindful of what's going on. Absolutely. Absolutely prepared. I mean, as homesteaders, what we grow, what we can, what we preserve, that's exactly what we do. But in a way that it makes sense and not overabundance, because there can come a point where you just have no more room left. And what would you do then? You eventually have to start using this stuff. I did my freezers the same way. I just kept buying and buying. And as I'm now going through the pantry challenge, I'm actually finding food I did not even have. Do you know how embarrassing that is to even admit that? It's not easy. I want to know what I have. I want to know what I'm eating. I want to be conscious into my health. I want to be able to thrive in life and be a milestone and be able to use the gifts that I have in so many different ways. I want to be able to think as winter as being a time for rest, and something I've never done before. I have always been so tired and so overwhelmed, and I would have many say, "You're such a busy woman." But here's the reality of being busy. In being busy, half the things I was busy in was trying to fix the mess that I created. And in the long run of it, it became to the point as I didn't even want to do that anymore, because it became overwhelming. What was I going to do? Where do I start? Where do I begin? How do I clean this up? Or how do I fix this? It's embarrassing to admit, but it happens to the best of us. And so we can create such a mess in our life. And I don't want that this year. I want balance. I want rest. I want to be able to thrive. I want to be able to prosper. I want to acknowledge what I'm doing. I want to taste different foods I've never tasted before. I want to fuel this body. This isn't my body. And this is how I see it. I'm a willing vessel. And what I do to this body equals out what I'm able to do for myself or anybody else. You know, I make these videos as a teaching method in a lot of ways. In some ways, I'd like to be a mentor, but I had to stop and think about that. Being a teacher or being a mentor, it starts with me. How do I take care of myself? How do I take care of this homestead? How do I take care of my husband and our marriage and everything that surrounds us in life? How do I spend my time with God, who has done so much for me? I couldn't even begin to explain to you even in the fact that there was a situation in my life 2 years ago, honestly, I shouldn't have been here. And that one is a hard subject to talk about, but it was a situation that I knew that a miracle was given to me. And I stop and think about that today, and staying busy. I had no time for anything, not even to be a willing vessel. So I'm learning how to slow down. I'm learning how to rest. I'm learning how to moderate. I'm learning how to grow in so many ways. I'm learning how to preserve our food in the right way, in useful ways that we will use it and not just let it sit around here. These pantry challenges are amazing in so many ways. They don't just provide us with our food, but they teach me so much of what I've done in that year, how I've done it. Was there things that were canned just to can it? Was there things frozen just to freeze it? Was there things to hydrate it just to have it? Was it useful in our life? Did we absolutely need this? Did I take up that space for something else? And I know I've gone through a lot of that information, but all of this surrounded in one big circle, y'all, and it has turned my thoughts into how I want to run this homestead. You know, there may be a beautiful blessing upon me and my husband this year that would allow us to be able to expand in so many ways, to teach so many people. But before we can do that, one, we pray it be God's will. Two, we take care of ourselves. Three, learn from our mistakes. Four, to be able to prosper, learn how to do things right. Learn how to moderate. Learn how to grow the right way. Learn what we want to grow and for what reason we want to grow it. Learn how to not waste so much. And then in the process of learning all this, in the process of doing all this, we can present more to other folks to help them. You know, many times we clearly understand, y'all, what going hungry is. We clearly understand pinching every financial dime that we have ever had. We know about budgeting, and we know about growing. Growing is one of the, I'm not going to say the easiest, but the best way for us in an all-natural lifestyle, in a way of budgeting our money, in a way of having provisions and self-sustainability into our homestead. Growing a seed. Y'all, I just got to do this. You see the prices at the store, but when we get a $2 pack of seed that has approximately 25 seeds, for a tomato, for instance, 25 seeds. You take 1 to 2 of those plants, just by that seed, you grow it. Do you know how many tomatoes you can get off of that plant? They amaze me. And yes, there are a variety of kinds. There is determinants, which those are the ones that grow and they have a certain amount of production. And then there's the indeterminates where they just continually keep producing. Pepper plants, my goodness. One pepper plant can produce so much peppers. So being mindful as to what we can do with it, be creative in how we prepare it, you know, and we can share, you know, but it starts with first taking care of us, learning how to use this, know what we're growing it for, preparing our home, and know how long we want to do that. I don't know if this is making any sense, but it helped me realize how we became sick, how our health started going down. You know, I had spoken about having so much wisdom and knowledge and having so many gifts, but in some sense of it, I've also learned through this walk, and I guess this is our year of awakening. Through this walk of everything that I had the ability of doing, I over I overdid things. And that's embarrassing, but it's also a lesson learned. You know, I'm now today learning how to live life the right way, be more energized in where I need to be more fruitful, be more healthier. You know, I never thought in my life I could feel this good again. I was so tired. I was so run down. My mind was never clear. I was going, but I was actually literally all going in circles. There was no direction. I was just staying busy to be busy, and I was busy doing nothing at all. I was having no progress in anything, and it became chaotic. And during the chaos, I found comfort, and I overdid the comfort. So it's no surprise how we ended up like we are here. I am doing the cooking that I'm doing now, offering new ways of being able to learn how to eat right. And if it means cutting some of those carbs we overloaded on, we bulked our body, we hurt our health. There is a point food can be devastating and no longer becomes our fuel. But for us, it became our comfort. And that's not the way to live. Uh, I can honestly say I feel young again. I feel thriving again. I feel wholesome again. It's amazing. I haven't felt like this since I was young. And I'm not saying I'm not young now. Don't ever, I will not admit I'm not. I am young. But it's how I use this body and how I treat this body to be able to be a willing vessel, to be able to be that mentor, to be able to be that teacher. I have to start with me. And I want to be able to be there for my husband. I want to be there for my children who are grown and my grandchildren. And I had to stop to think about all of this. How have I been running this homestead? How have I been running this life? How have I been taking care of us? And sadly, until June of last year, I didn't do such a good job. And I'm glad I'm learning from that because I love life. I really do. I love what we do, and I want to be able to enjoy that. I want to be able to share with you and so many more. If this blessing of an opportunity comes to us that we are just waiting on, we are in no hurry. We're letting God do his own timing on this. If it be his will, we will be able, shoo, Lord y'all, it's pretty big. We will be able to reach so many more folks. Homesteading is a way of life in the old days. So many more centuries that we were not even brought up in. And there was a reason for it. It was a way that was provided for us. It was nutritious. It was healthy. It was amazing. And we got up in this world with, and I've mentioned before, the convenience, and just totally redirected what nature was intended for, what we were to till our soils for. And I understand clearly. I know not everybody can be a homesteader. I'm not telling you you have to be. But even in the sense of not being a homesteader, choosing wisely, you know, so many of us are pre-diabetics, or we're diabetics, or we have salt intake issues, or we have blood pressure. We have so many different areas of our body, and a lot of this can be due to hereditary. A lot of this could be brought on by how we took care of ourselves. There is in our lives responsibility that we have to look at. And I look at my husband, I look at my children, and then I look at myself. And to be responsible for my own actions allows me to enjoy my life with my family so much more. So in my teachings, I am learning and teaching, and I'm mentoring into healthy lifestyles because frankly, it's just better for us. I'm learning to use food as fuel. I am still preserving and I still will prep. I'm a homesteader and that is my nature, but not in overabundance, not beyond my means, and not trying to put myself in a world of hurt where I cannot provide for it either. You know, being mindful in how I grow my produce. Produce is amazing, y'all, especially when you grow it yourself. It's a fulfilling, um, it's so gratifying to be able to hold that vegetable in your hand, to use it in your meals and know, I did this. You know, and I didn't go to the store, I went to my backyard. That is amazing. I have known that when I go pick my own herbs, recently, just last year, it came to my revelation when I was preparing my produce, or when I go in my pantry, especially now, when I'm going into my pantry and I'm taking out those jars of tomato sauce or that canned meat or that chili I'm using or my ketchup, you know, or the tomato paste. It is so gratifying to know that I made this, and the flavoring that's coming from it is unlike anything I've ever tasted before. My food tastes so refreshing, and it it's lifting so much inside of me to know that I can do this. It's creating that fuel for my body to keep going, and knowing that I can do this in a responsible manner, that's all new to me. Um, Truthfully, I had a very bad problem with overeating, and it's no wonder I gained 211 pounds. And honestly, that was my last weighing in. I have been up to 214, and at one time in my life, I was 298 pounds. And I was not happy with myself. And the sad thing is I took it out on everybody around me because I was miserable. But it wasn't their fault, it was my own. So I'm learning to take care of us. So you will find that I am cooking more Mediterranean lifestyle foods. I am curbing our carbs, and it's helping my husband. I have not seen my husband thrive. He's more energetic. Frankly, he's thanking me, and he shouldn't have thanked me. I'm sorry. One moment. He shouldn't have thanked me because I helped put him there. Y'all, if I'm going to make YouTube videos, if I'm going to be an example, I'm going to be honest. And because so many of you, I am so entirely grateful to you. So many of you, you look forward to my videos. And in some ways, I'm responsible for that as well. In a lot of ways, I'm responsible for that. And I am grateful that you enjoy the content. But at the same time, I want to be mindful, not just for me, not just for my husband, not just for my children, but for you as well. I see so many people suffering, and in a lot of ways, there's not a lot of caring. And I care. I care for so many. I want to be able to show what we're doing to teach about homesteading, to teach about raising your own food, to teach a Mediterranean lifestyle free, absolutely free of charge. Because for me, it didn't cost me to learn this. It took me willing to learn this. And I give this freely. I always will. God's blessings to me were never to be charged. And I vowed I would not do that. So I would love one day to be in a convention to teach so much more of this. If it's not His will, it won't be done. If all I have is YouTube, then I will use YouTube. It's a tool for me. But it also, believe it or not, y'all, working with you helps me. It keeps me in check. It keeps me responsible. It teaches me so much. I learn from you more than you will ever know. You know, it's not just my lifestyle. There's so much. I listen, I learn, I watch, I embrace each and every one of you. And I couldn't be more thankful. You help keep me in line. And you know what? I look at that as a support system beyond anything I have ever seen before. I thank you for that. You never knew this. You support me. A lot of you lift me up. You're more of blessings than you will ever know. You call me a blessing, but you have no idea what a blessing you are to me, what you are to my husband, to us as a couple, to this homestead. Y'all, you're angels in our eyes, and I want to respect you for that. I will always respect you for that, and I vow not to ever take that for granted. So thank you for your support system. I greatly appreciate that. For every like that you hit, for every share that you share, for every subscription that comes our way, that's a blessing to us. And that's another support system to keep me in line, to keep me in check, and to keep me thriving and keep going and pressing forward, to keep me to be in that willing vessel that I was meant to be. Some people may say I'm an emotional person, but when I accepted Christ in my life, I became that way because He changed my whole outlook in life. From an ugly-hearted person to somebody who really cares and loves anymore. You know, I've learned that love is so much deeper than I've ever known it. And everything that I do on this homestead, to my marriage, to my children, to each and every one of you, love is very strong, and I do not take that for granted. It's very powerful, and I've learned that much as well. You know, and I have to say I've learned a lot from the Lord, and I'm not ashamed to say that. You know, I used to think that I had to be very quiet about my beliefs, but very seriously, I don't use it. It is how I live our life in everything that we do. But in some ways, I guess I abused it too, and I took advantage of things, and I shouldn't have done that. I didn't take time for the things I needed to take time, such as reading my word, reading the word from the Bible. It's no wonder that there were areas of life of failure in everything that we did, because I stayed too busy. I leaned in the wrong directions in life. I listened to the wrong things, and it happens. But I'm learning from it. Homesteading is one of the most amazing things in life, but it's not unfamiliar. Homesteading has been called now a name. But if anybody were to really look at it, if they were ever to dig into the word of the Bible, homesteading was already in the whole Old Testament. Homesteading is farming. Great, small, growing a garden. It was all from the beginning. And this is nothing new. We just changed it to being something new because it was a time forgotten. And it's a time we need to bring back because it means so much more to our health. In times past, people lived so much longer, and I see why. I want to be that person. So I made this video to y'all to know that I will, from here on through, be very accountable for my actions. I am learning how to take care of myself. I am learning how to take care and appreciate this homestead in so many ways. I am learning to appreciate being called to do this. My husband and I literally stepped into faith doing this because we were led into this, and we appreciate. I can't explain that no more. We appreciate for every year that we have done this. We see why, and we can't be more grateful for it. So for us sharing with you, to be able to grow, to be able to help others to be where we're at today. And mind you, we're still going to learn, because I'm going to put it this way. As a homesteader, if you absolutely think that I know it all, I'm going to tell you flat out, I don't. And I hope to God I never do. Because if I do, that means I stopped learning. And I have no room in my life for stopping to learn. I want to learn. I want to keep learning something new every day. So that helps me to grow. I'm hoping that this video makes sense. I hope you know how much you mean to us. I hope you know that how much homesteading is to us, and even just for a fraction, y'all, even if it's your patio, again, I'm going to keep encouraging you. Grow one tomato plant, grow one pepper plant. Enjoy those flavors, enjoy your food, enjoy life, and maybe think just a little bit of what you want out of life. What are your gifts? What are you able to do? Everybody, and I'm going to tell you this, in this world, I know I've been brought there. There are so many people downing others. There's so many people who think their life isn't worth living, or their life is useless. False. Those are false words that I've ever heard. Everybody is given a gift. Everybody is given an ability to share with someone else, or to make, or to create. Everybody has worth in this life. God uses all of us. And if we were all the same, this world would be absolutely boring. Every single one of us has a purpose, a gift, a knowledge, wisdom, and everybody is useful. I encourage you to find your gifts. I encourage you to think and know that you are useful. I'm learning of the word can't. I'm taking that out of my vocabulary, because can't never could. Can do so much more. And I'm learning to do that. It took me a lot of years to figure this out, y'all, but it took a lot of changings for me to do that as well. So I don't know if this is going to help anybody, but it sure helps me to let you know. Thank you for your support. I couldn't have had a better support system again. So before I ramble on, much love to each and every one of you. And until next time, from Parton's Heritage Homestead.